To order. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Brenner. Gallagher.
Present.
Caulfield.
Present.
Wiener.
Present.
Rowan.
Present.
McMillan.
Here.
And Mayor Hodges.
Here. Next, we will all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up for your consideration, council, is the approval of the consent agenda. A motion would be in order to approve, as part of that, the December 12th, 2022 minutes, the committee and commissions reports, the fiscal year 2023 budget and revenues and expenses, budget revenues expenses summary, as well as the finance report. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Wiener. Is there a second? Seconded by Caulfield. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Brenner.
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Caulfield.
Yes.
Wiener.
Yes.
Rowan.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
And Mayor Hodges.
Yes, motion carries. Those items contained in the consent agenda are now approved. Next on the agenda is the public comment portion of the meeting. This is our opportunity to speak with our community and hear from you. And so I will remind you that you do have 3 minutes to come and share your thoughts and feelings with us. If you could please approach the podium if you're interested, share your name as well as your street that you hail from, and we're looking forward to hearing what you might have in your mind. Is there anybody here tonight who would like to be heard? All right, you're all avoiding eye contact, so I'm going to assume the public comment is closed. But thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you too to those who are listening to the live stream. We appreciate your engagement and your interest in tonight's meeting. Next item on the agenda is our manager's report, which will be followed by our public safety report. City Manager Seisland.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Hodges, a member of council. So we have had an odd winter so far. We haven't had as much snow as you typically would see in Michigan, but I thought it'd be helpful just for a friendly reminder out there of, the rules regarding snow and sidewalk removal when we plow streets and stuff. So for city streets, when there's a accumulation of 2 inches or more, the city will go out, salt, and start plowing all streets. We encourage homeowners to please try not to push the snow into the street when the plow trucks go by. That only just prolongs DPW's process. And, if you use your easement or side yard if possible. For the business districts, including Mack, Charlottesville, and Kercheval, business owners are responsible for clearing the sidewalks directly in front of their businesses. We will help in those cases where, there's an extreme amount of snow, and the city will clear the corners and parking meters area. For all sidewalks, when there's accumulation of 2 inches or less, the city will only do the Main Street sidewalks when there's 2 inches or less. So those areas cover Cadieux, Mack, Charlevoix, Vernon, Kercheval, St. Paul, Maumee, Jefferson, Fairfax, Essex, Avondale, Cordy, Windmill Point. Anything above 2 inches, we will have our city, DPW help with sidewalk removal and snow pumps. However, I do want to remind as well, we do have a city ordinance that actually speaks to residents clearing sidewalks. And that rule currently is defined in our Chapter 21, Section 52 of sidewalks to be cleared, which is after any snow or ice shall cease to fall, such snow or ice shall be cleared from the sidewalk within 12 hours. So we do ask residents to help in their part as well. Our DPW will be in assistance too to clear, but everybody can do their part, then it'll help for safe walkability in the community. Park passes for homeowners expired at the end of December 22. Those passes were good for 4 years. Homeowners who still have their old passes may use them up to January 31st, as we're working to process those new passes and allowing residents who may have not recalled their park pass was expiring. Parks and Rec staff will be reminding residents at the gatehouse and have paper forms to fill out for new park passes. Otherwise, we do have them available at City Hall as well as online. There's a form fill process that usually takes about a week for turnaround. So after you drop in your park pass form or you fill it online, then we'll have them down at the Lavin Center for you to pick them up. Then as well, DPW update, we're slowly closing in. And so my understanding is we got another 40 yards of concrete for the building, which is good news because it's difficult to get concrete right now. And we're doing final touch-ups at the inside of the building. So this is just clearing if there's any nicks or scratches that the contractor needs to work on. And we're starting to slowly move some of our materials into the mezzanine and also oil and other city vehicles over there. So that's progressing along. Last month at our DDA meeting, we did select a firm which is named Gina Studio, who's going to be handling campus rendering, which is City Hall, the library, public safety, and a proposed parking lot. So the DDA will be working on that in the next several months, which that'll be very exciting. And then I do have some news that we are sad, but also welcome her, best wishes that our city clerk and finance director, Jane, will be retiring very soon. And so Jane.
Just finding out.
Jane's been with the city for 42 years, has worked very hard with Grosse Pointe Park. She's dedicated her life to Grosse Pointe Park, and she has been here more than I was born. It just shows the dedication of Jane's work here in Grosse Pointe Park. So if you haven't seen already, there is advertisements for the city clerk position and finance director, and we're certainly going to miss Jane. So it'll I should give you a little heads up.
Yeah, you should.
I'm sorry.
We will honor you more appropriately later.
Well,
But you at least
Yes.
deserve that
Yeah.
preview tonight.
Yeah, and that's all I have for now.
Wonderful. Any questions for our city manager from members of council? Yes, Mr. Rowland?
Quick question, you mentioned campus campus redesign.
Yes.
Is that gonna include the city hall parking lot will be part of this new design?
Yes, the city hall parking. So literally just outline the entire city hall, public safety.
Yep.
Lot in front of there, everything. Just take that square all the way to the back lot.
All that'll be bundled together with the new
Yes.
lot?
Yep.
To make it better. Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Caulfield?
Yeah, just a couple of questions on passes. Is there a chance now, because every resident 4 years ago got a new pass, so all of them expired for the most part.
Right.
Is there a way to stagger to kind of reissue these on a number of years, or are we just gonna have to deal with it every 4 years?
So I can check in with Jane would know better and others that maybe our system might be able to see whether it's on an anniversary or birthday, but that's something I'm gonna have to follow up and check. I think from a ease standpoint, it's probably easiest to do 4 years, but it's something I can follow up.
And as far as it came as a little bit of a surprise to some people. Is there a way we can maybe put notifications out on an annual basis? Hey, check your passes.
Yeah.
Expiring.
Don't forget to turn the backside of the card.
Yes, yeah. And then just to clarify, another last comment on passes. New passes can be picked up at Lavin's?
That's correct.
Okay, because there was some misnomers out there on where to get those. So it is Lavin's.
Yeah, it's definitely right. Make sure you drop everything off here at City Hall or
Right.
Thornville right online and.
Okay. And then the only other comment I had is I appreciate you making a comment about homeowners' responsibility of snow removal on sidewalks. It is ultimately theirs, but yes, we will help if we do it as a courtesy, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, with that, I think Chief Gerald, you and your crew are up.
Evening, Mayor, members of council. Just have a couple little things for us tonight. I get a lot of calls during my day about stop signs not being obeyed along the different thoroughfares in town. So I just want to remind everybody, we do have a cost recovery ordinance in place now. Good example was about a week and a half ago, we had somebody driving the wrong way on Whittier and caused an accident, totaled 2 cars. Luckily, nobody was hurt. But in that case, we are seeking cost recovery. So if you are involved in an accident and you're at fault, you're going to be held responsible as far as costs go as well. So just remember that if you decide not to stop at the stop signs. And then the only other thing I had to talk about was January 19th at 4 p.m. here at the Public Safety Fitness Room will be the dedication of that fitness center to Lena Carlisle.
Nice.
So hopefully all of you can attend, and Mary will be speaking, so hopefully you'll be there too.
I will definitely make it a priority. Would love to. Lena, does everybody know who Lena was? She was a very special part of the Grosse Pointe Park Foundation. She was in the president's position at the time of her sudden passing and tragic passing, and was really passionate about leading on behalf of the community and ensuring, in particular, that the projects in the public safety department went forward. So she definitely was a champion and definitely deserves this recognition. So thank you for doing that, and our best wishes to her family as they continue to recover from her loss.
Yes. I have talked to her two sons. They will not be able to make the event, but they did pass along their sincere gratitude for us recognizing them and all the things that she did for us.
So, thank you for doing that. Yes, Mr. Abdullah.
Chief, would you like to introduce our new officer?
I would. Emily? So I'd like to introduce the newest addition to our public safety family, Emily McGrath. Emily graduated from Lake Orion High School and attended Lake Superior State University, where she obtained an associate's degree in law enforcement and homeland security and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, graduating with a 3.79 GPA. She's a graduate of Lake Superior State University, the Police Academy, and has been with the Oakland University Police Department for the past 7 years. Now, Emily has achieved far too many certifications to mention here, but I would like to highlight a few. She's certified in radar, traffic enforcement, TASER, first aid, CPR, emergency management from the certificate from the Emergency Management Institute, Title IX completion, which is relates to sexual harassment on college campuses, certificate on threat pattern recognition, completed an 8-week skills completion program from Lake Superior State University School of Criminal Justice, Fire Science, and Emergency Medical Services, trained in an implicit bias and how it affects law enforcement, plus many, many more. So I can tell you many, many more. This is all of her certificates that she handed in when she applied. So now that I've shown you all that, she has to live up to that.
Chief, just hand over your stripes now. Come on.
Might as well. Emily will attend the Fire Academy at the end of February, and we hope to have her serving the citizens in solo capacity by June. So with that, Emily McGrath.
Team is here to, you know, that is such a fantastic testimony to the culture that you're creating and the team that you have, and for you all to be here is really special. And Emily, it's obvious why they're all standing at attention. Come on, with those credentials. So,
So I'd like to let her introduce her family who's here tonight.
yay, great.
So in the back, we have my father, Andy McGrath. We have my mom, Susan Tossage, my cousin, Annalise Frank, and my stepmom, Allison McGrath.
Surprised you all have coats on up here from Lake Superior.
It's just me. They didn't go up with.
Oh, there you go. So you're all from the area then, locally?
Yep.
Great, great, great. Well, it's wonderful that you're all here to support. I know that you have our support as well, Emily. So thank you for taking this on.
Thank you.
Very important to have someone on the calendar.
It's history, right?
It is, yeah, our second female,
Yep.
correct?
Awesome.
Yes, it sure is.
You're getting there.
Yeah, we are getting
Thank
there. Thank you.
I just had a question.
Yes, Mr. Caulfield.
Just going back to the stop signs, there's been a couple of residents who've been asking about potentially increasing a couple of flow lanes in areas. One of them was Beaconsfield and Kirchville. I think there is another one, Charlevoix, there was another. Not that we have to discuss the placement of, what is the process for them to start, or if we do feel?
So I went over this, I believe, the council meeting, I don't remember what point it was, but there's certain criteria. If you look at the Uniform Code of Traffic, traffic manual
Right.
devices, there's certain criteria that has to get met, speed, accident history, and other things, and none of those streets meet any of the requirements. Now, that being said, as a council, you can do whatever you want. You can put a stop sign anywhere you want. I doubt very seriously if somebody would come in here and tell you you can't do it. In fact, I know there's a couple of stop signs in the city that probably don't meet that criteria. Speaking of Charlevoix, I was just talking to somebody in my office today about that. The sight lines there aren't bad. You coming off Weyburn or Maryland or Lake Point, it's very tough to see the north-south or the east-west traffic. And so the solution to that could possibly be reducing the number of parking spaces and increasing the space where there's no parking allowed. Those are some of the things that we could consider. But ultimately, if the council decides to do things, I would not be in favor of the one at Kirchville and Beaconsfield, simply because that would help defeat the Safe Routes to School program from kids coming from the north side. If they see that as a stop sign or a viable crossing option, they're going to ignore the path that we want them to take.
Gotcha. Okay.
So in terms of an action item, because I think that is an issue that emerges quite frequently, right? Would it be appropriate to have the Public Safety Committee and, Mr. McMillan take that on and work with you to come back with, because we don't want any unintended implications either. I think we'd want to have our eyes wide open and be well informed and yes or no, be able to tell the community that we've been responsive and here's the rationale.
Yeah, Chief does have the tools and the data to be able to, take a look after that request is made to, have somebody survey the intersection and see, what the traffic pattern is and such that would help with that process.
Would you like to take that on,
Sure.
Mr. McMillan, and work with the chief and bring something back to us?
Absolutely.
So I can tell you, we've done some traffic speed studies. So for example, on Kirchhoff east of the school for westbound traffic, the highest speed was probably in the 50s, but I'm assuming it's probably one of my guys responding to something. The average, the 85th percentile was like 24 or 25 miles an hour. So it's not, people perceive there's a bigger problem, and city manager and I had this conversation about perceptions today. A lot of times those perceptions are just wrong. But we can certainly talk about it in public safety.
Well, and the deterrents are important too. So if the community didn't hear it loudly enough, do not blow stop signs. You can get killed, your children can get killed, and if nothing else, you'll be charged. So please obey our traffic devices. Yes, Ms. Gallagher.
Thank you. I'd like to see a summary of the cost recovery ordinance and its impact on the community. Will you be presenting that in a quarterly or annual? How will we see that?
It doesn't matter to me, however you want to do it. I don't know about quarterly, it might not be enough of them, but certainly semi-annually. We're going to every 6 months, so maybe beginning of the fiscal year and at the end of the calendar year.
An understanding of potentially those residents that are affected, the residents that weren't affected, the amount of money collected, et cetera.
So I can tell you, I don't know what the demographic breakdown is now or where they live, but I do know the one that happened on Whittier, it was going the wrong way, it was not a local person.
Well, and you do give an annual report to the council. Which month of the year is
At the
that?
end of the year, so we'll be compiling that through this month and it'll probably be presented in mid-February, so probably February council.
So that could be one of those reporting points.
I
It could
could-
also
I
be
could
done at the
also
committee
include that in the
level
report.
too, to make sure we protect the time here, so.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments? Yes, Mr.
Just
Turner?
one quick one. Again, back to the, traffic stops, because it does come up so often. Granted, they don't meet any of the criteria, but we can obviously put them where we see fit. It's often not obvious why you wouldn't. Could you maybe share a couple reasons why you would hesitate to put a stop sign really anywhere? I know there are some reasons that it actually can be counterproductive.
One of the biggest problems is if you saturate an area with stop signs, you actually defeat the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish. People get sick and tired of stopping every single block. And that's when you find people starting to roll through them on a more frequent basis. That's probably the biggest reason.
Very good. Thanks for being on your
Yeah.
feet, chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you, team, for all being here. Go save some lives, protect some property. All right, unfinished business, council comment. Is there any comment that my colleagues would like to make? All right, moving on, our new business, the state of the city. I think, how many years has it been? Has it been a state of the city done? And certainly not in my memory.
This is the first ever.
First ever?
Okay.
Whoa, history. Okay, I wouldn't have guessed that answer. Geez, now I really got to, we all have to really be prepared here. So on that note, good evening and welcome. Welcome to your 2023 State of the City, albeit a truncated one, and shall I say an atypical one. For this won't be about one person pontificating, because this isn't about one person and it never will be. We're a team, and this team, you, my colleagues, the administration, our various partners, including the City of Detroit, the Eastside Community Network, Stink, the Grosse Pointe the Grosse Pointe Public School System, our mayors and managers groups, our county, state, and federal legislators, our Grosse Pointe Park Business Association, the Mack Avenue Business Association, JEI, and the multitude of others that we have the honor of working with, and as well as each and every resident, especially those who serve as commission and committee members. We will always act as such and as a team. And today's State of the City is organized in that manner. So we can clearly demonstrate the significance of that team and the one who holds itself to the same standard as we do our residents, which is the 3-minute timer. If we expect our residents to adhere to that, we are going to adhere to that. And plus, we should be having fun while we do this anyway. So as we continue to transform, to professionalize, to evolve and improve our policies and procedures, we've implemented management-minded methods that set measurable expectations because measurable goals are far more likely to elicit results, especially when done in tandem with aspirational language that calls for us to be our very best selves. And in this case, I'm sure you've all heard it before, our aspirational language was, we're going to get stuff done. That was our simple mantra for the year. We use GSD for short, and GSD along with the right thing all the time and airtight, meaning we're going to be fully compliant with goodwill, making up for when we don't have all the tools available to us, such as a demo policy, also serving as our mantras. And then, of course, there was crush it, right, Mr. Brenner? Because if you aren't having fun, you aren't getting as much done. And that was the fun piece of it. So those were the aspirational statements and the inspiration, along with you, all of our residents. Knowing we have to look you in the eye and knowing we did the right thing all the time has been our inspiration too. The measures that I speak of are good, solid goals and objectives that were clearly set before our city manager, albeit a little bit late. This year, we're going to get them to you sooner, so you have a full year to implement them, as well as our clerk, and finance and treasurer. You had some goals put before you too, and our legal team before your arrival, Dan. So watch out, you'll get some this year. And then in tandem with those goals and objectives, and new this year was, and as part of the duties that were tied to each of our committee and commission partners, they were asked, the assignments associated with that, they were all asked to complete what we affectionately called a one-pager, which was a one-page form which asked them to lay out each of their top goals and asked them to consider that in tandem with budget and staff capacity. So those documents were completed early in the year. And tonight, each council member gets to tell their story. They get to tell you how they've done in alignment with those one-page documents. They get to show you because they answer to you. And what they've accomplished in the last year, they will talk about, and whether they met those goals, and what might deserve celebration, and what might require more support in order to get to the finish line. They will follow for you a simple outline, the first of which they will be recognizing the committee and commission members and chairs that they've worked in partnership, because we wouldn't be here without our volunteer leadership, as well as the support from our administration. The second item they will be covering is their 2022 goals and the status of each one of those, including the most significant accomplishments, as well as those areas of concern and what we as a team need to do in order to remove those obstacles. Then third, they'll give you a preview of their 2023 outlook. And then they'll end with what they feel is Grosse Pointe Park's greatest asset, because we really need to celebrate who and what we are. The committees, and we will have them speak in this order, the first of which is our Infrastructure and Maintenance Committee, which has been led by Councilmember Wiener, followed by our Ordinance Review Committee, which has been led by Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield, our Personnel Committee, which has been led by Councilmember Gallagher, our Public Safety Committee, led by Mr. McMillan, our Community Engagement Committee, led by Mr. Brenner. And then we also have liaisons that are going to give updates on their areas of focus as well. Finance and Marina Subcommittee by Mr. Caulfield, the Beautification, Sustainability, and Senior Citizen Areas by Member Rellin, the Grosse Pointe Park Business Association by Mr. Brenner, the Board of Ed in Trombley by Ms. Gallagher, Recreation and SEMCOG, Mr. McMillan. The TIFA will be covered by Mr. Rothy. Thank you, Warren, for being here. And I will cover the DDA, Ethics, the Planning Commission, Michigan Municipal League, Eastside Community Network, and Jefferson East Maine. And then you will absolutely be hearing from our city manager too, to share his thoughts and to fill in any blanks. So with that, it's showtime. Councilmember Wiener, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor Hodges. First and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge the team, City Manager Seisland, Assistant City Manager Rothy, the entire team from the DPW led by Tom Jenny and Nino Thomas before that, engineering for Patrick Drozen of HM, and of course, Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield and Councilmember Brenner. One of the first things that we did last year was issue a state of the infrastructure statement. We've already issued another one. It's in the package and it's been disseminated publicly. But just to kind of condense that for this meeting right now, the first step of 2022 was basically trying to assess the state of the infrastructure in Grosse Pointe Park. As we're all aware, the core of the water sewer infrastructure in the city was put in place about 100 years ago. We're talking about 40 miles of pipe underneath the city. Fortunately, that's pushing the limits of the lifetime of the materials. So with that in mind, we wanted to basically assess where we were going to be with the broader infrastructure. What we have ventured to do here was I want to commend DPW for the work they've done keeping the infrastructure working, but what we wanted to do is kind of reorient, going from reactive to proactive in the handling of the infrastructure in the city. Certainly, as issues come up, we don't want to just be patching them. What our new goal really is to use preventative maintenance planning to not only repair issues, but actually build upon the infrastructure itself so it better serves the residents. Now, of course, building out the infrastructure takes resources. So step one with that, I want to commend the city. We've been aggressively pursuing any and all federal funds and grants. Furthermore, the engineering and DPW have been working diligently to try to find efficiencies. The biggest development of 2022 was the passage of millage. That gives us now a firm financial foundation for us to pivot into long-term capital development. In fact, if you look back at 2022, we've undertaken the first water main project in over 3 decades. We've been drying out the sewers through extensive alleyway separations in the large project on Jefferson, and of course the ERV, which we've been working towards. It's the single best safety valve, basically, for the residents to protect us in the event of a major catastrophic event. Above and beyond that work, should have written some of this down. Above and beyond that work, we're also looking to build upon not just the water sewer, but work towards improving the PASER ratings of the roads, serving the residents better with better utility work, and above and beyond all of that, we want to further our communication efforts, keeping an open, transparent process for the residents through our monthly updates, through communicating, because we want to make sure that we're held accountable. Residents are aware of how our resources are being allocated. With all of that in mind, I'm very optimistic about the direction we've taken. I feel that strongly that we've really kind of bent the curve now, as opposed to just arresting systems as they stand. We're building upon them. Year over year, the residents are receiving better service, and that will have a compounding effect going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reed. I did bring something important. Disconnect your downspouts was our big effort of the year too, right? So one more chance to remind. And then also, I think the other piece that gives us some financial stability is the support of philanthropy too, which is really unprecedented that our Grosse Pointe Park Foundation, I think, came forward and helped to support the funding of the EERB. So thank you for your leadership in building that partnership.
If I had more than 3 minutes, that's why I have it all right.
I just helped you shoot. Thank you. All right, next up, Mr. Caulfield, ordinance review.
Yes, do you want me to go through and in finance or wait till then?
You can do that if you'd like to.
I'll just do
your flow
ordinance.
going. Okay.
So ordinance review, obviously myself as the chair, I serve along with Councilmember Gallagher, Councilmember Marty McMillan as well. Basically summary, the ordinance review hit the year running with a focus not only to update many ordinances that were in immediate need of review, but to also add new ordinances that were identified by the city administration, legal, building, what have you, public safety as immediate needs. Past year, we added 5 new ordinances and brought that to council for approval, which they all have been. And to date, we've revised about 12% of our entire ordinance book, which is a pretty big undertaking. In addition, we've worked alongside administration to ensure increased enforcement of those ordinances. That was the other half of this, to make sure that not only are we passing, but we're also enforcing those. Then personally, in conjunction with the committee, I spent a lot of time with the building department officials doing walkthroughs on what they look for out in the streets, get a better understanding of their process. also with public safety and any needs that they may have for revised ordinance, as well as the administration, constant contact. Spoke with a lot of residents and other department management to better understand areas of focus where ordinances may be a factor. Our 2022 goals, we had 5 listed. Number 1 was a full completion and implementation of our Muni Code by year end. This is very close to being completed. We did not 100% hit it because, quite honestly, it's just up for a full legal review before we publish everything. So with the changeover of the legal staff, that was put on delay, but that will be done very quickly. Number 2 is identify high priority ordinances that need immediate revision by April 1st of last year. We identified all those as a committee in February. We compiled that list with the exception of the only one we did not get was the sign ordinance. That was because as we got into it, we found out that that needs not only our committee approval and ordinance review, it needs a full zoning review. So that's going to be back to the zoning commission. Review an amended high priority list of existing ordinances by year end. We did identify those. All of that we identified as a high priority were completed outside of, again, the sign ordinance. Review and update enforcement codes by third quarter. We did quite a few of those. The biggest one, which I thought was great, was the adoption of the International Fire Code, which the city had not done for many years. This was, and with the decision of the legal team, this again, a lot of these are ongoing because we will identify priorities of 2023. The 5th and final was begin the task of our full ordinance review. This includes zoning as well. This is a multi-year project, and we have started, it is ongoing. And again, with our new legal team, we're excited to really jump in and be deep on that. So the newly adopted ordinances that we brought, living fence, large building demolition, cost recovery, nuisance, and then the National Fire Code.
Right on time.
Nice.
What about your favorite asset? And I forgot to ask you
favorite
too.
asset.
Yes.
My favorite asset is, and I've said this even, when I decided to take on this council role, is that our biggest asset to me is our residents. I feel that all solutions to any issue we had in front of us, we found it.
And you, Mr.
It's certainly the team. Again, when you're dealing with infrastructure and again, the network that we're dealing with, Nino Thomas, Tom Jenny, and then Mike Krause especially are fantastic. I mean, these guys have been working on the system so long that I walked into the room and just started trying to learn from them. And we also in the committee's done the same towards the facilities and learn from them because again, it's system textbook. This is again, system built upon a system built upon a system. So we've got a very good team in place. And again, I think they deserve a lot of credit for keeping the services for the residents as good as they have been, considering the age of the system.
Good call. Personnel, Councilmember Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor Hodges. First, I'd like to say Happy New Year and thank you to the residents of Grosse Pointe Park for the opportunity to serve our great community and to make a difference in the community in which I live. To that end, I will share my efforts made over the last year on the engagements to which I was assigned. As chair of the Personnel Committee, it is our job to oversee the performance of the city manager, finance director, treasurer, and the city attorney, who all serve at the pleasure of this council. The Personnel Committee, including members Michelle Hodges and Brian Brenner, worked with the employees listed above to set the goals for the year and to summarize achievements completed from the previous year. The committee also addresses personnel concerns as necessary. Last year, a review of each of the named above employees were completed according to the goals set by the previous council. The same will conclude this year against the goals established by this council. To that end, I have asked for feedback from each of the council members as well as City Manager Seislin, which I will collect and consolidate so the committee can measure performance against those goals. I have proposed 3 meeting dates and times in the coming weeks to my committee members to further those discussions. Once those discussions are concluded, we will schedule a formal review on the council agenda at the appropriate time and provide performance evaluations. As his option, our city manager Seislin has already requested that his review be held in closed door session. While all of these responsibilities are vital to the effective functioning of the city, I am most proud of the achievement of the committee in securing the Kelly firm as the new city attorney for Grosse Pointe Park. It is my opinion this one change will have a significant and long-lasting impact on the effectiveness of our city and its administration. While we appreciate the dedication of the outgoing Bodman firm and those who served under it, it was prudent and wise to review their experience, pricing, and enthusiasm against a wider audience. Doing so has afforded us not only cost savings, but greater municipal law experience for our city. Further enthusiasm, the enthusiasm we have seen from the Kelly firm is infectious to those they serve. For all of these reasons, I am grateful and proud of this change this committee has effected.
Thank you, Councilmember Gallagher.
And the best part of this community, I also agree with you, are our residents. But having said that, because you already said it, I'm going to add.
You can say it.
I will, and I did, but I will also add to that, I think that the amenities that we have in our community are outstanding. And I think that those amenities continue to bring residents into our community. And I hope and pray that we will continue to care for those amenities in a very well-established way.
Thank you very much. All right, next up, we have public safety. Mr. Morgan, we're so glad to have you, by the way. I know you weren't feeling well, so lucky us.
Okay, so we had some goals for our public safety department. We have our council member, serving on the committee is council member Beener and council member Reland. Also Chief Gerald, Deputy Chief Bostic, and also our city manager Seisel. One of the goals we had was to increase the training opportunities for our police officers. And this goal was blasted out of the water. I think the chief has done a good job. Several mutual aid cooperative training sessions with other Grosse Points and Harper Woods communities were conducted. The creation of a monthly fire training schedule has been instituted. A grant was secured for the state of Michigan Fireworks Training Fund for over $3,000 to host 2 trainings at Grosse Pointe Park. A 4-day engine pump operation class and an aerial operations class. And this will be offered also to outside agencies. It will take place in the summer of 2023. This training's never been done before in this area, so we're proud of that. And also improvements in supervisor and command level training, including FBI Law Enforcement Development Association training in command and frequent online scenarios. So there's a lot of training that was done, and that was probably the number one goal. Explore fundraising options to purchase body-worn cameras and tasers. Currently, the Public Safety Foundation, we're working with the Public Safety Foundation to purchase body-worn cameras and new tasers. But in addition to that, the Grosse Pointe Park Foundation purchased rifle-related ballistic shields for all 8 of our patrol cars. And then working towards a DPS accreditation. Currently, the chief is working to get this accreditation, which takes several steps to get to. But we are working towards that, and that will maintain a goal for 2023. The reorganization of the Public Safety Department as officers approach retirement. The administration, the 2023 administration will be working with the chief and the unions for the future of our department. Number 5, continued recruitment of cross guards. Cross guards is an ongoing situation. Right now, we're all set with cross guards. Resolve the radio agreement between Grosse Pointes and Harper Woods. The Grosse Pointes and Harper Woods have worked together with the farms to reduce our yearly cost on that. Also, as far as being a community outreach leader, and I got 20 seconds left. The chief put together a fantastic open house here where we had a demonstration of how the Jaws of Life worked. The community was all invited. It was very well attended. All the police officers were there. Great display. And they had a bouncy house for the kids and as well as hot dogs and a drink. So it was a great year for the Public Safety Department.
Nice job, Mr. McGillen. And what is your favorite asset in the city?
Well, I wrote down a few because I figured this would happen. My number 1 is our residents, their willingness to get involved in welcoming spirit. So the welcoming spirit's a little bit is an addition to what both Councilmember Gallagher and others have said. But my next thing I had here was public safety. I think that's important. People like to have feel safe. So it was my number 2. So I'll go with that one for now.
Very good. And did you get everything you needed to say?
I think so, yeah, I think
All right, great. Thank you.
could go
Coach
on for a
Diggs.
lot longer. It's-
Next up, Mr. Brenner, community engagement.
Thank you, Mayor Hodges. So Chair of Community Engagement, also serving with Mayor Michelle Hodges, Councilmember Vikas Rellan. City Manager Nick Seisland has been in attendance at every meeting, and I also need to give a shout out to Parks and Rec Director Chad Craig, who I call on frequently to try and commandeer the Tompkins Center and its theaters. I'll start by saying it was a brand new committee, started last year, which excited me tremendously. It's kind of neat to have the freedom to create and kind of address needs as we see fit without any real preconceived notions or kind of continuing others' work. The downside of that is we are completely starting from scratch, and so there was a lot of groundwork done over the year. Some of our first goals on the communication side of things was to choose a proper streaming service, which it feels like 100 years ago, not a year ago, but done. We felt as infrastructure was really the primary focus of this council, that we needed to have better communication of infrastructure needs. So we looked into the website. And as I also sit on infrastructure, I was able to kind of double team Nick on that one. And with really a ton of people were involved in that, and I don't have enough time to name them. Infrastructure is now prominently displayed on our website. Also, we thought it might be nice to do a refresh on the communicator, which looks lovely, and I'm already way short on time and behind. Community engagement, we wanted to follow a lot of kind of recent trends in other communities, highlighting events throughout the year, such as Arbor Day, Pride Month, Black History Month. So we started with, Arbor Day. We thought it would be an easy one, not a whole lot of hoops to jump through. We had a talk at the Tompkins Center on home solar. We also had DTE come in and discuss how to best make your home efficient. Pride Month, oh boy, how much time do I have?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Gotta be.
Yeah, you have a
Okay.
lot.
So we also looked at Pride. We wanted to do something for Pride Month. We were able to show 2 films through community partnerships and sponsorships that were to no cost to the city, provided free tickets for the residents that were both, I believe both of them were gone within 24 hours, both sold out within 24 hours. So we were very proud to be able to provide that. After that, there was a lot of discussion and we got a lot of input regarding the lot in front of Ewald. So we decided to have a town hall mainly for the residents at the condos next door, the Park Place condos on Lake Point. We listened to a lot of their concerns, and while not directly a result of that, I'm very pleased to report that DDA, when they were reviewing the bids for the renderings, they went with the one that had the most community engagement involved. Also, for our September meeting, we were going to discuss, at that time, there was a lot of discussion about the demolitions going on in our business district. So that was going to be a topic of discussion, though we got so much feedback from the residents that we decided to, the meetings, of course, are always open to everyone, but we really decided to turn it into more of a town hall format. And really several things came from that I'm very pleased about. One thing, Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield attended as a guest, just not to add anything, but he was in attendance. And I know through many, many phone conversations in the days after that really hardened, listening to the community input really hardened Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield's resolve to put the pedal to the metal in going through our ordinance and updating. That also, I believe, hardened the resolve of our council here, who then subsequently approved funding for a consultant, which I know many of us are very reticent to do in a time when a budget is very, very tight, but we found that was well worth the investment. One of the residents who was very vocal and shared a lot of his thoughts is now on TIFA. Planning, excuse me, sorry. And also I think it influenced our decision to pursue the redevelopment ready community certification. Going forward, we are planning a very robust Black History Month series of programs, which after our meeting tomorrow, I think we will be able to have solidified enough to be able to report on. I think as a committee, we are really starting to gain momentum and gain our footing after a year of really kind of just getting things rolling. And I believe going forward, we'll also have more focus on communications. Sorry for going way
Greatest
over.
asset. Greatest asset.
Oh, Lord, no, see, that's impossible. You are talking to somebody who's been here his whole life, is completely head over heels in love with this town. And it would be it's utterly unfair of you to ask me to pick out our best asset.
All right, Brenner.
You should try finishing your energy drink before. Next time you see Jeff will.
But Brian, you really did make a Herculean lift this year. It was something from scratch. And it was our bold statement to the community, how important community engagement is, right? By actually putting a name on it and structuring the organization around it. So I can think of no one better to have taken that on. And I think it does more clarifying the community, because there was some criticism that some of the community engagement committees meetings should have happened at hours when the community could be there. And that really wasn't the purpose of those meetings. Were to plan for the community engagement.
Yes.
So the community engagement itself is when the community is invited to come out, right? Now, we did make those meetings available because there were times when important issues arose that we thought, okay, we've got this time carved out, let's address it. But we weren't being tone deaf to the need to connect and to plan for when our community could actually be there. So thank you very much for all that.
And I apologize for
I've done. For what? No apologies necessary. Okay, next we move into the council liaison area. And we will start with Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield, who was charged with liaising, really helping us stay on top of issues related to finance, as well as the Marina Subcommittee.
Yeah, do you want me to do both?
Yes,
All right,
please.
well, finance, I'll start with finance because that's probably the biggest and most. Outside of regular finance reporting that was completed with every council meeting that everybody here receives from Jane and everybody else, been a lot of work over the past year. One, to familiarize myself with the financial operation, the shortfalls, challenges, what have you. First requested that all of our rolling budgets, our past audits, and all budget items be populated on our website for transparency and everybody to see. That has been completed. They are publicly available. I've consistently met with administration weekly, regularly, sometimes daily. To your chagrin, reviewing financial positions of all departments in the city to really understand where our shortfalls are. I've requested some P&Ls just to get a better understanding, either from some events or even from activities such as, just to name a few, the after six, snow removal, leaf removal, just so that, not to challenge those said, but to understand what really the cost is to us. Really to raise more awareness of the actual monies that are spent in getting those done. Some of the highlights, I'll just jump ahead because a lot of this is in your report, which is in the finance list, which I really appreciated. Some of the highlights were the Baker Tilly for water and sewer rate fund management. I think that's really going to help drive our financial position in those areas. Biggest was also the insurance update, changing to Blue Cross Blue Shield for employees, and then the GL and property coverages that saved quite a bit for the city. And then defense agreements and legal changes that we made. So in addition, worked as requested with a lot of other committees as from a financial aspect and administration to identify those needs, such as the infrastructure committee and others, for tackling projects, forecasting and getting results. So that does it for finance. I'll try to squeeze in the marina. Served along with Marty McMillan. Marina Subcommittee, we met about 4 times this year. The ultimate focus was on the future of our big asset and marina down there. We also transitioned the focus of the committee to be more granular in our approach, meaning that instead of focusing on the high level needs, we've really first looked to identify and define what the marina is, the physical attributes, the staffing needs, the budgeting, what have you. I put in place a 1-3-5-year plan to the committee, which they have began running with. Basically 1, 3, and 5. 1 is identify that we are taking a seriously look approach to this in the first year. Third is to, by year 3, the timeline is to plan to have a motion in place either to rehab, rebuild, what have you. So that should be coming in the next couple of years, or hopefully within the next year. And then ultimately, the 5-year is really a target because it is becoming a liability. And if we don't have anything going in the next 5 years, we need to have a serious discussion of what the future of that marina holds. The good news is we have great representation and active folks on the committee that are willing to serve and willing to put in the time. The 5 goals that we have listed, again, review and update marina rules by April 1st for full adoption of all well users. The rules were updated. However, there's still some more work that needs to be done for next season. And also to make sure that all well owners are presented and understand the new ones. 2 was define the marina, again, the physical attributes, staff, budget requirements. They've done a lot of work on the physical identification completed along with basic staff needs. A lot of this is going to be ongoing as we determine where the focus is moving forward. We create number 3 was to create a 1, 3, and 5-year outlook plan by June, which we did accomplish. We also decided to request for architectural design plans, a potential new marina to go out to bid, which council approved. That has been completed. So we're on our next phase, moving to that 1, 3, 5-year plan. And then 5 was communication to all well holders on the status of the marina. This committee, along with its progress in the Recreation Commission, so that this council is updated, the commission is updated, and the well owners are updated. Current committee members have really started to relay information to all the commission. A few of them that sit on the Marina Subcommittee are commission members. There is still some work that needs to be done to deliver messaging to the boat owners. But I think that will come as we get more design plans implemented and things going forward. I think the biggest accomplishment has been defining the marina. I don't want to go into the weeds for that, but there has been real deep discussions on, are the seawalls part of the marina? Are the fences part of the marina? And I am going to go over, but what I want to say is defining that is not only from a budgetary and staffing requirements, as we've seen with the enterprise fund, the depletion of assets, but it's also to identify, even if that marina was not there, we need seawalls to stop the leak. You do need a fence to stop people from falling into the open water, but that is not a marina responsibility. So it's really, we're defining what truly is the marina so that we can plan forward once we get the design plans.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield. Moving on, Mr. Rowland, you're up with beautification, sustainability, and senior citizens.
Thanks, Mayor Hodges. Beautification Committee met a lot last year. We meet almost monthly. It's chaired by Kim Claxton, who's a fantastic resident. I think many of you know her here. She's very happy and open and just a good representation of us. One of our major accomplishments last year was the yearly beautification awards, which rewards residents for maintaining and improving their homes and lots, highlighting some of the hard work they've accomplished. We also added in this last year and maybe the year before a Century Club recognition, which highlights the many homes that we have that are 100 years old and older, along with our newly instituted Residential Sustainability Award. We did continue our business awards for beautification, awarding 2 to 3 businesses a year for how they visually impact our neighborhoods, which is great. The holiday decoration awards were just finalized. Those will be announced later this month. We had 2 successful garden and plant exchanges, which we hope to build on next year to improve on and garner even more engagement, maybe adding some things for younger adults. It seems each year we grow just a little bit. We hope to continue this trend by adding some more fun and relevant activities. We do focus on our children at the Arbor Day events that we have with the poster contest as well. The Sustainability Subcommittee is just getting together again as our focus challenge started in December. Nick's city manager is aware of that, the Michigan Green Community Challenge. We hope to elevate our current status from bronze to silver this year. This initiative, run by Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, known as EGLE, hopes to embed sustainability in planning processes, leverage local expertise and partnership, and integrate equity into community sustainability. So these actions will all create a more sustainable, equitable, and prosperous future for our residents, visitors, and businesses. And we hope to use it as a soundboard for all new projects coming to our city to ensure sustainable, equitable processes are integrated. For 2023, we hope to also add a resident support offering to the Beautification Commission by getting some new members that have that kind of expertise. These are for people that need some advice at their houses. We've been getting some questions about that. The Senior Citizens Council, I guess we can call it, or Advisory Board, I seem to be doing that more at the gym than anywhere else. I go to Lavin Center twice a week and I talk to a new senior citizen that I haven't talked to every time I'm there. So that is on that. We've been talking to them on how to best garner their engagement and where to do it. Because we all know if you have a meeting here, it doesn't fit everyone's schedule or things like that. So we're trying to come up with a good reason for that. And I'll reach out to the community engagement team for advice on that. As far as our greatest asset, I have to agree. I think I know our Grosse Pointe's greatest asset is our residents. So many blocks are packed with wonderful people. And for various reasons, I have a lot of respect for many of them. They highlight the importance of being supporting and loving spouses and partners, nurturing and kind-hearted parents. So many of you are focused on being good community ambassadors. I feel like I always learn something new when I'm talking to one of you. We each also have our own concerns, but often these impact more than just us as individuals, but as a community. We have lots of unique and diverse mindsets. And as many of us mentioned, it's truly makes us proud to represent this community. One thing I ask is to please keep asking questions. Without questions, we would have not gotten this far in improving transparency. And yes, as we all know, there's still ways to go, but we're so far ahead of where we were 3 years ago. Please stay engaged. The more of you that are involved and in the know, it makes it better for all of us. And I want to thank you, the residents. I want to thank our council, as well as our support systems that make our city so great. Thank you.
Well said.
Yes, and the events that the Beautification Commission pull off are just fabulous. I know one of the council members, yeah, she said, we didn't iron the tablecloths today. And they look beautiful, these wonderful centerpieces. And, yeah, and I said, oh my gosh, that's perfect, a perfectionist, right? So and you're right about Tim and that, a lot of great people. And the sustainability efforts are really bleeding over into the business community too, as we're seeing overachievement going on there and people.
Yeah, that's city manager integrating that in, so that's good.
Yep, it is. So thank you, Councilmember Rutherford. Let's see, we are now moving on to the Grosse Pointe Park Business Association. Mr. Brenner.
All right, well, here I can hope to.
Oh, did I do something? Are we good? Keep me on track, Marty.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Go ahead.
You're right.
Okay, here I hope to return a little bit of my stolen time earlier. So again, this was another one where it was a new position to the city. I am in very regular contact with Joe Rebecca, the president of the Grosse Pointe Park Business Association. That said, one fantastic characteristic of small business owners, and I'm not just saying that because I am one, is they are incredibly resourceful. And tend to be pretty good at getting things done on their own. I'm in very regular contact with Joe, and in the beginning, he was very, very respectful. Any question that he had to the city, he would contact me first, and then I would inevitably say, okay, well, why don't you just ask Nick? Or why don't you just call the person that is most in charge of what you're looking to get done? And eventually he said, well, okay, I was just trying to follow the procedure. I said, well, if you're just going to call me to call Nick or whatever, feel free to just call them directly. And to administration's credit, Joe and Nick in administration already had a very good working relationship. Again, I'm here for them whenever they need me, but again, because they have such a good working relationship already, more often than not, it is just more direct to contact city administration themselves or whichever department is they have some concern with.
But they know we're here for them.
They know we are here for them. And going forward, I think as more development continues to occur in our business district, and also I really think with the opening of the SCOP Center, there will be a lot where we can help coordinate between different groups. But at this time, again, Joe, small businesses in our community are pretty self-sufficient.
And Joe is our pointer of interest, I believe, in the Grosse Pointe News this week. So testimony to him. And then at each meeting, as you know, we've been trying to highlight our local businesses. So tonight I thought, let's go to the Sprout House because we're planting seeds, right? And I picked some things up there that are in alignment with what our primary goals were this year. The first of which was infrastructure, of course. The second of which was really supporting our school district and having a solid solution for Trombley. And then the third was our underfunded liabilities. So as it relates to infrastructure, I brought some water from the Sprout House for you all to share with some cups. Here, I'll pass them down, and each direction. Max,
That's just water.
so it's,
That's only water?
it is. It's not from the water or sewer or anything like that, but again, in honor of that. And then, of course, Trombley, any kid is gonna want sweets and popcorn. So these are, treats that any good school child would have. And then for underfunded liabilities, I looked to see what they had on clearance and on sale, because we are going to be underspending. So you each get some hot chocolate, which hopefully means winter is coming. But that was on sale at the Sprout House, which is really, and you can use the cups too. I've got extra cups if you'd like to put your treats in these. And I actually remember to bring napkins too. How about that? So thank you, Brian, for, being that support to our small business community. And I hope our businesses know how much they're supported and how important we believe our business-friendly environment is. So. Okay, Board of Ed and Trombley, Councilmember Gallagher.
Thank you. As the liaison to Trombley, from the get-go, I felt this assignment was a train that had already left the station as Trombley had been closed for a few years prior to my coming on board. Nonetheless, I committed to do all that I could to help restore Trombley to an educational institution, as it is my opinion that this would bring the most benefit and value to our community. I spoke at a school board meeting expressing my opinion and asking the board to reconsider the closure of the early child care program at Trombley. That fell on deaf ears. You also spoke at that meeting. Yeah, we went together at that meeting. I attended 2 meetings in early 2022 with our city manager and Mayor Hodges. It was attended by Superintendent Dean and then President of the school board, Joseph Hurd. Those meetings were not easy meetings, as it was very clear that my position on Trombley and Dean's position were miles apart. This was supported by the attendance of a developer intended to develop Pupard into housing units and his recommendation of changing our current zoning to support multifamily housing. I made it clear this is not something that I would support. Perhaps an oversight, but I have not been invited to attend any formal meeting regarding Trombley between our city and the school board since January 2022, even though my repeated requests to do so. Despite this, I have been successful in creating some protection for Trombley. 1, finding a representation in the master plan for Trombley land use, denoting it as a residential, when the future land use and future zoning maps should have reflected Trombley as they diverse and defer. After calling attention to the matter properly, which provides additional oversight for Trombley land use. Ordinance language that protects residents and create additional safeguards for the city for demolition of large commercial properties by insisting proper adherence. But most importantly, I understood the only real hope for Trombley as an educational institution was to help elect candidates to the school board who had the same intention for Trombley as I. As such, I have spent the last 10 months working in the background, supporting candidates who I believe will support Trombley as an educational institution, ideally as an elementary school. With the newly elected leadership of the school board secured last week at a meeting which I attended, President Ahmed Ismail, Vice President Lisa Pappas, Treasurer Sean Cotton, Secretary Ginny Jute. It is my hope that with this new leadership, we will see positive movement for Trombley in the future. And as part of that, they also put motions on the table to add 4 new committees that would create some more oversight for the administration, as well as they have approved the RFP process for council for the school board members themselves, which I think will all be positive for our school board and positive for Trombley in the future.
Thank you, Councilmember Gallagher. I do think it's important to point out that this body was not involved at all in the school board election, that we are not a political body and work in partnership with whomever's in office at the school board or in the administration, that's very important in terms of how we function and operate. And we will continue to strive for that apolitical, nonpartisan, collaborative approach to working with our Board of Ed. Recreation and SEMCOG, Mr. McMillan.
I have 2 to do in 3 minutes.
Well, you get 3 minutes.
I gave you 3.
All right, our members, we meet 4 times a year. Our members are rec is commission's chaired by Mike Hendelang. Members Roy Edmonds, Mike Bannon, Larry Haggard, James Sunick, Sarah Coates, Stacy Jarvis, Christina Buchanan, Paul Spratt, and Howard Booth. These are fantastic people committed to the city of Grosse Pointe Park. One of our goals was to oversee and assist the marina infrastructure updates. And routine maintenance was done this past spring and summer on in the parks. And also, as Mayor Pro Tem alluded to, Avon Marsh was selected for an architectural design for the marina. Another goal was to listen, encourage debate, and offer suggestions to the Parks and Rec. And currently, they're working on updating, creating, and revising forms and documents such as facility contracts, park permits, and park rules. Also creating more online registration opportunities and implementing new documents for staffing training. That action item will remain ongoing for next year. Upgrade and replace playscape at Patterson Park was a goal. And the Grosse Pointe Park Foundation is working on fundraising for an update or possibly a new playscape at Patterson Park. Another goal, renovate or replace Lavin Center roof and retaining wall. You might have noticed it's starting to tip one way or the other, tip away, and quotes have been attained for this and will be coming to council too soon for approval. This work is planned to get done this fiscal year, and we have a budget allotted for this to be done. I think the most significant accomplishment with Parks and Rec is the approval of the Avon Marsh design of the marina. SEMCOG. Nick and I attended 2 general assemblies last year, one in Chesterfield, the other in Dearborn. Together, we learned some of the economic development activities in this region, sustainability, workforce developments, and ideas for our downtown districts. In addition, we learned SEMCOG works with county road agencies and other partners to collect pavement condition data for all lane miles of roads in Southeast Michigan that are eligible for federal funds. It's important to keep up to date on this, and that's why Nick and I go, because everything is ever changing and these grant opportunities are there. We need to know about it. An example of that was Grosse Pointe City received a grant for half of Cadieux, and we did receive a grant for the other half 2 years ago. So that's staying up in front of it all. We also received a grant for Kirchable in front of our schools. Also, just as a footnote, council member Lev Wood of Grosse Pointe Farms City, he's the council member there, was elected as a delegate on the executive committee representing Wayne County at our meeting in March in Chesterfield. So we should be very well represented, having Lev there, representing all the Grosse Pointes, really. We got one person there who's representing all of us, I feel. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you very much.
Did I do it?
You did, I think so.
Yeah.
No, time's just fair, huh? All right, Tifa, Warren, you ready?
You can go first. Sure. Good evening, everyone. We don't have a council liaison, Tifa, so you got me, the Tifa director and assistant city manager. One of the goals for the upcoming year is when I say, hey, I'm the Tifa director, I want people to know what the Tifa is. I really think that we have the opportunity to be almost a city within a city, and how we engage with our community, ensure that our programming goes and fits the wide gambit of improvements to public infrastructure like parking lots, also goes to generous residents who have taken advantage of with much enthusiasm of our residential grant improvement program, and really just continue the legacy of this unique taxing district that we created so long ago. It takes a long time for the funds to begin to accumulate. We're at the point now where we're years ahead of schedule on where we thought we'd be from a capture standpoint. And again, it's a city within a city. And I look forward to onboarding the new resident board members at this Thursday's meeting, learning more from them and their perspectives, and then again, just making it so that works for all.
Thank you very much, Warren. And I think it bears noting that you were a great addition in 2022 and helping to move all these initiatives forward. So thank you for being that. I know you mentioned adding residents, the new resident members to the TIFA board. And I think we should clarify that even further, that our goal has been to add residents of the TIFA district, which is a whole nother challenge, right, of finding qualified people to serve in that way. And we have 3 new individuals that are coming on board that will represent that resident voice. So thank you for helping to make that happen too. The next updates I will quickly run through here. Yes, we do have a downtown development authority. I'd like to thank Andy Richner. He served as our chair for quite a few years, and he did step down this year, and stepping in his place is Ben Wixon. So thank you to him, as well as the other new appointments to DDA, which included Roseanne Horn, Jim Kretschmer, and Jamie Ray Turnbull. Some of the highlights, and I'm sure Nick will probably have some things to add in his update, but we did hire, as we already noted, the campus design firm. That was an important highlight from the year. We dealt with some parking lot issues. And the whole purpose of the DDA is to promote revitalization of the Jefferson Avenue business area. So I think we're certainly doing that in earnest. And in 2023, it'll be fun working on that campus design and also welcoming the SCOP attorney. We did bring on new legal talent. The East Side Community Network is another role that I play as a liaison to that. There was the East Side Gala that I attended, and it was great to see all the neighborhoods really celebrating what makes the East Side great. Also attending panel discussions at the Stoudemeyer with representatives from the City of Detroit's planning and design team, working with the Mack Avenue Business Association. In fact, I think it's really important to note that all of the Grosse Pointes that touch Mack Avenue, as well as the City of Detroit and Wayne County, are working in collaboration with the East Side Community Network. And the DPW, I think, is an important punctuation point there, that investment. And then the fact that Gabrielle's Florist, which is a much loved local business, purchased the old bank building there. That's got to be testimony to what happens when communities work together with neighboring jurisdictions. So I was really pleased to see that, and hope Gabrielle's knows how excited we are to have them back. And then working with the economic development staff on the East Side Community Network, Minya Irby in particular, in meeting with her and securing some federal dollars to help support Mack Avenue and doing more community engagement. The Ethics Review Board is another hat that I wear. I would like to thank Mr. Breen, Mr. Paczynski, and Mr. Augusta. Tony Augusta was a new addition. He took the place of Larry Mann. We thank him for being one of our inaugural members on that important board, and wish him well in his new endeavors. The commission, or the board, I should say, did hear 2 matters in the course of the year. And I would also like to thank Jake Howlett and the Bodman firm for their steady hand in handling those. And hopefully in 2023, that board will be very inactive because that will mean ethics are in good shape in the city of Grosse Pointe Park. The Michigan Municipal League is another one. That's an important assembly of communities throughout the state of Michigan, and by working together, we're able to advance legislation and things of that are friendly to local government. Examples would be their advocacy on short-term rentals and perhaps some budget relieving measures for pension and underfunded liabilities. So having that support and infrastructure is important. A number of us also attended a number of professional development conferences and the like throughout the year. And we certainly have access to a bevy of resources, whether it's documents or pilot projects or an infrastructure tool, the My Michigan Water, I think it's called, or something like that, close to that is important. The Michigan Municipal League too. The Jefferson East Inc. organization, I do serve as a board member there. We, I think, made some great progress on regional solutions to infrastructure. City Manager Seisland, you've done a great job of pushing through on that, participating in their master planning process as well to make sure that everything that is happening on Jefferson is interconnected, and meeting with their staff team too to talk about coordinating planning efforts and setting the stage for even further collaboration, and participating in their programming like the Jazz at the Vanity event, which is a wonderful summer event. And then lastly, I think to report here,
is, of course, the Planning Commission, which will be absolutely, it's always essential and an important body in the governance structure. But certainly in 2023, as we look to do a redo to our prehistoric zoning ordinance, and also, which is an offshoot of our master plan, which was a highlight from 2022, having that approved by council in June, and certainly the Planning Commission leadership that got us to that point. And property inventory, the inventory of property that the city has ownership of will be important to look at in 2023, and the seeds of that were started in 2022. I would like to thank Amy Chesterton and Michelle Lindsay and Catherine Sanpere, who have stepped down from the Planning Commission. Pat Coletta has stepped in as the new chair. I think we're fortunate to have his leadership. Also added to the bench this year were Mr. Saros, Mr. Stahecki, and Ms. Taylor. So they're getting their legs about them and preparing themselves for a very busy 2023. Also in 2022, we did amend our bylaws. We did some rezonings to areas so they could become parking lots. And we did hire a consultant to lead the zoning ordinance revision. And then I will say too, and this might be seen as on the soft side to some, but I think a key highlight was that from a breakdown, we really got a breakthrough. And I'm speaking specifically of the demos, the properties that were demoed, and that did invite some controversy throughout the year. But I think through some goodwill on the part of all parties, I'd like to personally thank the homeowners, Devin Stahecki and Val Teasdale, who were adjacent to that property, as well as the developers, Mr. John Cotton and his team, and our city staff for really taking the time as we morph into this professional city, where we have gaps, which at this point was good policy on the demo. We were able through goodwill, I think, to push forward a better solution for all. So from that breakdown came a breakthrough, and I hope that really sets the tone and plants a seed for more of that as we move forward as a community. My greatest asset, of course, is much of what has already been said tonight, but I have to say too, I think it's our location. And I don't just mean our physical location. I think our location at this moment on the timeline of history, our community is situated so well to lead on really important issues, whether it's being that impetus for regional solutions to infrastructure, right, Max and Nick, or whether it's addressing issues at the border and using our voice and being empowered to bring people together around that to instill and inspire high quality economic development for ourselves as well as our neighbors, and developing other partnerships that really push us forward. So I think our location in time, our physical location, and the fact that we are all located here, the right people at the right time to get this done is the asset that I'd like to celebrate tonight. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to our city manager, because City Manager Seisland, nothing gets done without your leadership. And you really have been a tremendous leader. And I want you to have an opportunity to fill in the gaps, to set the tone, to really talk about what you think is important, what you'd like to celebrate, and to let us know where you need our support to ensure your success.
Time myself. Thank you, Mayor Hodges. First I have to thank our city staff, from our gate guards to our police officers to our public works employees. A special shout out to Jane Blayhut, Warren Rothy, Tom Jenny, Terry Brennan. There's so many names out there, Chief Gerald. Without these guys, I couldn't do my job. It's to them that we're able to do this together. And frankly, too, then my elected body, the city council members and the, city attorney staff. Without you guys, I wouldn't be here. And I ultimately want to thank you all for this ability. Everyone kind of went over a couple highlights. You stole a couple of them, but I think they're going to be a little random. But I guess these are most what I'm proud of. I think particularly the water main project, Mack Avenue, is really exciting to me. Something that we hadn't done since quite a while in the 80s. I think that's showing to our residents, we are committed to infrastructure. When we had the allocation from the American Rescue Plan, it's, how are we going to spend this money? And, with the former city council, and Councilor Raylan Hodges, that pipe tech and sewer, that's something we really need to work on. So that's what we did with cleaning, and we still have work to do. city staff separating 3 alleys. So again, with that infrastructure, showing our commitment to drying out our system and continuing is something that, we have great staff. We have in-house guys that did this. The one contractor, that's amazing. And then Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield mentioned it, but I think it's something, again, I want to note is the approval of Nickel and Saf as the city's new general liability insurance. So we increased our sewer liability coverage, we increased our property coverage, our cyber liability, added judicial liability, and increased the marina while saving money. I think that's important to note for everybody and our residents that this was something I'm particularly proud of. The code rewrite, this is something that city staff and I are continuously looking at of trying to understand or interpret, and having McKenna on board to be able to assist us is going to be humongous. So I'm glad the council decided to approve of that. Random, but I was most proud of on the green side, as Councilmember Rayland said, we applied for SEMCOG Green Infrastructure Assessments Project over on the boardwalk at Patterson, and we were awarded for a free design. So this was a design rendering. What can we do for, the shore wave run up and such? So obviously, it'll be finding the funding, but it's those little steps of being able to see what we can do to help fix that. We have all these street events, but for years, we didn't do much on Mack Avenue. And I'm particularly proud working with our Parks and Rec staff and with the Business Association, we were able to bring some of that over onto Mack Avenue. So that's exciting. And something, there's 3 more notes, so I'm going to go above, unfortunately. But I'm particularly proud of with the history, and something I think is important for Grosse Pointe Park is that relationship with the city of Detroit. And that's something I'm particularly proud of, working with the mayor's office. Every comment from infrastructure to code enforcement to development, how can we work together to bridge those borders? And that's something I am excited to work with. Even working with the council member that's on our border that we've invited to a future council meeting. I think, just showing that relationship building between Grosse Pointe Park and Detroit is important. Working with Jane on succession planning. It's something really important, not only for all of our staff, because you have, people that have been trained for so long and now bringing in the right people. I'm excited to work on that. And then last but not least, we are almost in. I'm so excited for our staff. They've needed this for a long time, and just to see these guys look at this building and the pride it is, I just can't say enough. So
Aren't you going to mention the online movie tickets?
Okay, well, yeah, we can. Online movie tickets. Yeah, there's a number of things, but I try to keep it as brief as possible. And you guys mentioned a lot of them already. So
Well, and I'd like to thank you too, because this body has a fiduciary responsibility, right? Which means we need to be well informed on decisions, and you keep building your bench. Bringing on McKenna and Associates, Dan Kelly and the like, so that our decisions can be well informed, support the building department and the like. So thank you for doing that too, and successfully navigating our polling location change too. I think that was a big thing, and working with community partners to ensure that voters have access to that opportunity. So thank you for that. So just to wrap things up, I'd really like to thank you all, my wonderful teammates, for your outstanding reports, our staff team for all that they've done and their hard work. And this team's had a year to work together now, right? So we have our legs about us, and 2023 should be just as strong. And although we're finalizing goals for our city manager, I have to think you can see more activity in the infrastructure area, on Trombley and support there, on underfunded liabilities, which is going to be a huge undertaking. Public safety will be absolutely essential in making sure we can provide a high quality product in an austere budget year. The zoning ordinance, the master plan, the redevelopment ready communities, and all of the checks and balances that go along with those to make sure interests are well represented. And the constant evolution and professionalization of the community will be a priority too. Communication, of course, and engagement. And I think they're going to Councilmember Brenner and Mr. Relland with some of the things that we've got cooking for the coming year. And we will keep organizing our talent and the organization with that solid bench, with good measurable goals and objectives, so we continue to outperform. And so I will put you all on notice that now, and not just my council members and staff, but also our community and our other partners, that if we're going to continue to get stuff done, you can expect some questions to be asked of you throughout the year. 1, is it productive? 2, is it actionable? Can we do something with it, or is it just words? 3, is it the truth?
4, is it without unnecessary drama? Remember, this is an adults-only team. Is it in alignment with budgetary and staffing resources? Is it in alignment with the goals, the master plan, the experts that we've hired to guide us and other guiding documents when we're making a decision? And then, of course, is it decent? Is it good? Is it in the best interest of this community? And I ask you all to ask those same questions of me and make me good and strong for you as well. I know you all share this sentiment that we believe very much in this community. Every single person in this community, even the people you would think I shouldn't believe in, I believe very much in them too, because I think with the right leadership, the right guidance, the right direction, the right demeanor, the right tone, the right attitude, and the right intentions, we will not only tackle the easy, but we will tackle the tough, and we'll do it in a way that we can all of us, feel very, very proud of. So your next action item is to get your 2023 one-pagers done so that next year we can promote some report some additional results, and that's by February 1st. So that's your action item, council members. Community at the table to be engaged and help us be good for you. Our partners, I thank you for always being there. Let us know what you need from us to make you successful, and then certainly fasten your seatbelts. And then staff team, please just make sure every step is productive and in alignment with the goals set before you so that we can GSD, get stuff done by doing the right thing all the time in an airtight manner, grounded in goodwill. So with that, thank you, everybody. And our first ever big state of the city has concluded. What time is it? 8:26. Okay, people, we gotta hustle, huh? So folks can, but fortunately, I think the rest of our agenda is pretty straightforward. So thank you, everybody. There'll be public comment in a moment, sir, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. Okay, quickly moving forward here, we have our commission and board reports. Before you, we have, where'd my cheat sheet go here? I should have made sure where'd it go? All right, yes, thank you very much, City Manager Simon. Yes, before you, you have beautification appointments, 2 sets. The motion before you for your consideration is reappointing for full terms ending January 31st of 2025. Ms. Carolyn Bird, Ms. Pat Deck, and Ms. Barbara Miller. Council, is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Wiener, seconded by Gallagher. Any discussion? Clerk, can you please call the roll on those individuals?
Councilmember Brenner?
Yes.
Gallagher?
Yes.
Caulfield?
Yes.
Wiener?
Yes.
Mellon?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
And Mayor Hedges.
Yes, motion carries. Congratulations to those who have been reappointed through 2025. The next set of beautification commissions appointments up for your consideration are to reappoint the following individuals for full terms ending January 31st of 2026. Those individuals are Kim Clexton, Lisa Kyle, Shelley Hansen, and Alicia Klein. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Wiener, seconded by Rellin. Any discussion? Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Brenner?
Yes.
Gallagher?
Yes.
Caulfield?
Yes.
Wiener?
Yes.
Mellon?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
And Mayor Hedges.
Yes, motion carries. These 4 individuals have been appointed to the Beautification Commission through January of 2026. And last up for your consideration, council, would be 2 alternate appointments to the Board of Review. It's a very important role. These roles can be difficult to find qualified individuals for, and I'm very fortunate to the people that have put themselves up for this. The first of which is Jody Bruce as an alternate for a full term ending December 31st, 2025, and in tandem with her, Polly Ryan, also as an alternate. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Wiener. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Caulfield. Any discussion? Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Brenner?
Yes.
Gallagher?
Yes.
Caulfield?
Yes.
Wiener?
Yes.
Mellon?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
And Mayor Hedges.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you to our Board of Review alternates. Next up for your contemplation is the purchase agreement amendment. Mr. Seidlin, would you like us to get a motion on the floor? And would you like to lead the discussion, or Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, if you'd like to get a motion on the floor, Mayor, obviously I can enter a summary, and then myself or Mr. Kelly, we can.
Okay, council, the motion up for your consideration would be to approve the agreement amending the October 29th, 2019 purchase agreement and authorize the city manager to execute the same. Is there a move by Gallagher? Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Wiener. Discussion.
All right, so in 2019, the city entered a purchase agreement with the Urban Renewal Initiative Foundation for the purchase of a number of properties on Ashland in Detroit, as well as known as Joe's Garage. Since the execution of that purchase agreement, the parties have agreed to a number of modifications of the purchase agreement, but none of these were memorialized in writing. You know, we had agreed as parties that, you know, we're not going to do a number like to buy in Joe's Garage. Also not having an office venue within City Hall for the Scott Center. So as a result, the city attorney and I have been working with the Urban Renewal Initiative, finding that this agreement satisfies for amending that purchase agreement. So as a result, I would ask for council's motion, which they already did.
Any questions for Mr. Kelly? Anything to add to that?
It also provides for the lease,
Yes, thank you.
$1 a month.
Yes.
All right. Questions? All right, clerk, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Brenner.
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Caulfield.
Yes.
Wiener.
Yes.
Stelling.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
And Mayor Hodges.
Yes, motion carries. We do have that purchase agreement amendment. And I would like to just address some concerns that have been brought up at previous meetings. Mr. Kelly and Mr. Seisland, if at any point you want to add anything, please do so. But there have been concerns brought to the table, and particularly by you, Mr. Relland, and we've been diligent in responding to those concerns and have sought the solutions because we certainly want to be in compliance. And each time the analysis has shown that we are compliant and that we are fulfilling expectations, and we do have the support of Mayor Duggan's office on these matters related to the Scott Center and in particular Grosse Pointe Park's role within that. And most recently, Mr. Seisel, I believe you've had communication from the mayor's office, Mayor Duggan's office as recently as Friday. So we know we have their support on this project. And I believe, Mr. Kelly, you've had an opportunity to review where we're at from a legal standpoint and feel as if we're on solid footing. So it is very important for this community to be good partners to our city of Detroit and to always be operating in a legally, fiscally, and ethically responsible manner. So to that end, because we've received nothing actionable, that would come maybe in the form of a formal notice or some kind of written documentation or even a lawsuit challenging the city's position on it. We can't act on words. That's just not actionable. So, and I believe it's dangerous to paint the city in a bad light when we are operating professionally and as we should. And we cannot and will not breach a contract or any goodwill that we are obligated to provide. So any assertions to the contrary and, the associated failure to back them up in any kind of actionable manner is a disservice to this city and to the residents we serve. So I very sincerely want to state, because it's important for our community to know it's in good hands and being well managed, how committed we are to being professional, to being good partners to our neighbors. And we are absolutely going to act when we need to, when things are brought to the table. If we're not acting in that manner, we will anything. But again, there's not been anything actionable. All of our review, all of our evaluation, all of our assessment, all of the great relationships that you've built with the city of Detroit have not produced anything at all actionable. So we will continue to proceed as we are with this project. We will celebrate all of the benefits that it brings to this community and move forward earnestly and ardently in compliance with legal obligations set before us. So again, Mr. Kelly or Mr. Seisland, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I just think it was really important to state that and get that on the table. Yes, Mr. Relland.
Can you share those messages you got from the mayor's office?
Yes, I think what the mayor is alluding to is, so questions have come about, the Scott Center and we talked about the Historic Commission. And so, I looked into my own research just to make sure I didn't miss anything or check anything. And, because they've come up and there was an article that came up recently that mentioned how, Grosse Pointe Park has been told that, there's non-compliance issues with the Scott Center. So I reviewed my emails just trying to see, and to the best of my knowledge, while, I've been city manager, I haven't received anything from the city of Detroit that said, hey, there's a problem or there's something coming up, and same with the historic commission. I've never received anything in writing from them. So I've had a couple discussions with the mayor's office just to see, hey, is there something we're not hearing or we're missing? Like, can you let us know? And so, you know, I did send a request to the city of Detroit. I've had a couple phone conversations, and so far the mayor's office does support it. But otherwise, if there's anything of an actual request sent to me, if there's an issue or concern we need to look into, I haven't had anything since.
And a lot of that's been memorialized in an email. You know, city manager did chronicle all of that in an email, so that it's on the record that, and we have complied, you know, examples being we opened Kirchville, we completed the DDOT bus turnaround, we provided for use of the bathroom facilities by that staff. We've provided the surety bond, we've done the parking lot obligation, we've done the land sales. So we have fully complied, and therefore I have the authority to continue to move forward.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if you can share those emails from the mayor with us on council.
I haven't received anything from
I
the
thought you
mayor.
said you just received the
He
email.
sent a.
I sent to the mayor's office, yeah, like my understanding of where's everything at in the process, what we've done, and, you know, is this your understanding, and every, you know.
They've replied.
Basically
So
chronicling
we
the
haven't got approved
conversation.
yet then. You
No, that
mentioned
doesn't mean it's not approved. They've not
You said
shared.
we had support from the mayor.
Right, they've
He hasn't got a
indicated.
reply.
I have phone conversations, but otherwise, you know, writing an actual return email to me, you know, that says that, no.
That would be good.
But their obligation would be to notify us formally using some device that would inspire and cause the action that they would be looking for. There's nothing like that, so there's no reason not to think that we are not operating with legally
Yeah, I
and
would-
as we should, so.
Sure. I
so-
would expect that upon receiving the manager's email outlining what you're doing going forward with these agreements, you would get a response if they objected.
But this isn't our project, as you mentioned before. This is a URF project. When I asked last month, you said URF should be handling those questions, not Nick. So now you're saying Nick is emailing the mayor to
For
get
the
these
Grosse Pointe
approvals.
Park's obligation to it, anything, you know, our relationship with the city of Detroit has certainly been handled by the city manager. We can't speak.
There is
That's
questions regarding the urban renewal that they
Yeah.
do need to.
That's what
ask
I've been asking every time.
Some of that, but then there's some obligations within the MOU, you know, we had our obligations of what we had to do with the urban renewal, just making sure we're all on the same page and understanding, hey, we fulfilled ours, you've done yours in this, and then, you know, if we talk about urban renewal, we'll have to, you know, ask those.
Yeah, and those are the questions I've been asking, is from their end.
Right.
Are we ready to give them the land if Detroit's not willing to, if they're still having trouble with Detroit approving their project? That's what I've been asking every month,
Well,
along with trying to see the financials, which I'll ask our new city attorney if we're able to see the financials of the URF before we handle the land.
We've not received the financials. I believe we've received a commitment from them that they've have sufficient funds to complete the project, which is all the contract spells. And
So we'll never have proof of what they have,
unless they voluntarily give it to us, yes.
and we're okay with that, giving them the land without knowing that this is a large sum of money and a large sum of land that we're giving added on to what the residents are already paying for this project.
Right.
It behooves us as fiduciary to understand how much money they actually have, if they're gonna be able to finish that project.
Right. The original contract from 2019 basically spells out that it's a very vague language, to be honest with you. But they've confirmed that they have sufficient funds to move forward.
And it states pretty much that they just need to send us a letter that says they have the funds, where I see exactly what you're saying. If you had to go back in time and put in there that, you know, hey, these are the steps, but, you know, where we're at, you know,
It
what.
just seems like a common sense thing to do. I know you weren't, none of us here were involved with it, I understand that. I'm wondering if we can amend that to get that information, to let our residents know, hey, they did collect enough money for the project. Or are we just giving the land away that's been sitting vacant for 12 years?
But we did receive a letter from their attorney indicating that substantiated the contract, that they had reached sufficient funds. So in that event that they didn't, we would have force. Yes. I mean, the assumption is that when they say substantial funds. Right. They're not giving us the financials, they're not stating the specific amount, but they're obviously, they know the project themselves. Right, and they stated through their counsel that they have those funds necessary to complete the project.
I understand that.
We would like better, to be honest with you. We'd like a little bit more, but that's what we have right now.
That's all I've been saying. Thank you.
and we met the other obligations too.
Yes.
render that transaction.
Yes,
So,
the
okay.
city has, absolutely.
Right. Okay, so we're in, I think, a strong footing there and hopefully can move on from that matter. Okay, next is the approval of the renewal of the Clemis agreement. Mr. Gerald, would you like us to get that on the table, the motion? All right, so council, the motion for your consideration is to authorize the city manager and the director of public safety to sign documents that consummate the agreement with Oakland County to provide IT services through Clemis to the city of Grosse Pointe Park. Is there a motion? Moved by Gallagher, is there support?
Support.
Supported by Caulfield. Discussion, Mr. Gerald, would you like to kick us off, please?
Sure, so, Clemis is a kind of a difficult topic to address or to define, but Clemis is an acronym that stands for Courts and Law Enforcement Management Information Systems. Basically, it started off a long time ago, but it's morphed into a very sophisticated countywide database with access to all kinds of information by participating agencies. And when I say countywide, it's not just Oakland County, it's Oakland, Wayne, Washtenaw. It's really has expanded over the years. Basically, everything we do on an operational side runs through Clemis. It's our computer-aided dispatch. It's our report writing capabilities. It's our records management system. It hooks into LiveScan, which is the state's automated fingerprint. So when we arrest somebody, bring them in, we fingerprint them, that's automatically transmitted to the state of Michigan. It does our mugshot capture, all of these things it does for us. So the nice thing about it is all of the participating agencies have access to other agencies' information. So if I'm investigating somebody here in my park or something, I enter their name in. Anywhere or any other agency that's participated.
Apologize. We have a
Yeah,
little
sorry.
mistake we need to.
No, actually, we don't. We
Actually,
didn't.
we
No,
don't.
no, no.
Yes, we did. Yes. Sorry.
Sorry for interrupting.
You don't have to start over.
So you should cuff us, seriously.
Makes Chief excited.
I can't start over because I don't remember what I said. If I run somebody in Grosse Pointe Park investigating something, any other agency that's had any contact with that person and has entered them or done a report on, we'll get that information. So it really is something very important that we do. In the write-up, I said that the fees, yeah, they fluctuate too, but the fees fluctuate every year based on basically, the fees are set by their strategic planning and advisory committee. So I can tell you this coming summer in July, there will be a 3% increase in the Clemis usage fee, the user fee. So those are the things that kind of vary. This is a budgeted item. I think this year, our first quarter invoice was just over $8,000. So you can expect for the year to be around $32,000 and some change.
And if there were any overages, there's the spending requirements that it would have to come back to council for that. So I think we're good on that part. Okay, any questions for the chief? Thank you for your presentation. I know that this is the backbone of what you do and it is very important. So, okay, any discussion before calling the roll? Clerk, please.
Councilmember Brenner?
Yes.
Gallagher?
Yes.
Caulfield?
Yes.
Senior?
Yes.
Bowen?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
And Mayor Hodges.
Yes, motion carries. You have that authorization to proceed with Clemis. Next item up for consideration is ordinance number 236, chapter 16 amendment. Mr. Rothy, I believe you and Mr. Kelly will be reading
introduce it.
motion first.
Yeah, that'd be
All right, so the motion up for your consideration is adopting the proposed amendments to chapter 16, article 3, section 43, and direct the city clerk to publish said ordinance in accordance with the city charter and state law. Is motion, I'm sorry, Mr. McMillan?
Second.
Seconded by Gallagher. Mr. Kelly.
So this is very briefly a fairly minor change to your ordinances addressing assault, battery, and domestic violence charges. It increases the maximum penalty from 90 days to 93 days. Because of some law changes that occurred many years ago, quite frankly, the difference between 90-day misdemeanors and 93-day misdemeanors are tracked differently, and to be in compliance
it's our recommendation, you up the offense to 93 days. Other than that, it doesn't have too much of a practical effect.
Thank you for mentioning that, Mr. Caulfield. Do you have anything to add from the ordinance review
Nope.
standpoint?
No, this was brought to our attention and we approved it.
Okay,
And our new city prosecutor, working Mr. Kelly and Mr. Jake Murtis, who's with us here tonight, are working together on new prosecution codes and that. So, yeah, I guess, Dan, you want to introduce Jake real quick?
Sure. Jake Burt's from my office here. He's helping with
Yeah.
the prosecutions in the office. Jake's worked in the district courts for about 4 years and with us for about a year. So he's very familiar with district courts.
great, Jake. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being part of the team. All right, well, if there's no further discussion, you can call the roll. Clerk.
Councilmember Brenner.
Yes.
Gallagher. Yes. Caulfield.
Yes.
Wiener.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Yes.
And Mayor Hodges.
Yes, motion carries. The amendment has been approved. That brings us to the council comment portion of the meeting. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring forward? Councilmember, did you have something? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of things, please. We talked a lot about bridging borders and being good partners with Detroit, economic development, community building, infrastructure, et cetera, and we go on. Very important for our community. I'd like to make a request of the infrastructure committee to do, the infrastructure is to understand our capacity and to do capacity management, understanding the water flow in and the water flow out. I would like to have a capacity management study and the impact of stormwater off of Alter Road into our sanitary. And I think that understanding that capacity and its capacity into our sanitary could be beneficial not only to our community, but also to the community members in Detroit on Alter Road. And I think it would be a good step in building community and understanding that capacity and what it means to our infrastructure.
Councilmember Wiener and Mr. Seisland, would a good next step maybe be to have Councilmember Gallagher put that request in writing, and then you can have an opportunity to consider it and report back?
Sure.
Councilmember Gallagher, could you do that, please? Sure. Anything, you said you had something
Yeah, I
else?
had two. I also have another request about our meeting minutes. When I look through the meeting minutes, I don't see specific action items in there. And of all the meetings that I attend, what we take down in our meeting minutes are action items. And I'd like to understand how we can go about ensuring that the action items that come out of our meeting are part of our meeting minutes. And how do I make that request to make that happen?
It's probably a legal question, right? I know, minutes are important and there's a format to be followed. I know Courtney does a great job, but if there are any improvements that need to be done, I mean, it's probably something you need to look at and make sure they're properly chronicling action taken.
There's actually, there's quite a bit of leeway with regard to minutes. But input from the council or any board that the person that's recording the minutes, if you want more detail and that's agreed to by the council, that could be directed to the clerk or the assignee who's recording the minutes. But minutes themselves from a legal standpoint really only require persons present, motion, and the vote. Now, obviously, in most cases, there's a lot more detail put in there, but there's a lot of my different communities have them completely different minutes. So direction from the council would be the appropriate thing to do.
So is it direction that I'm giving now, or does it have to be in a form of a motion and seconded and then voted on?
Well, you could, I would say ultimately, yes, it is a motion. Maybe what we could do for the council is to lay out sort of the parameters of what minutes should entail, and then give a little bit of like best guidance, if you will, because there's a lot of good articles on what minutes should and should not.
And then also, Councilmember Gallagher, you do have, when the consent agenda goes out early in the week, I believe you have until Friday. Like if there's something that you think is missing from the minutes, you can report that to myself and to the city manager by the Friday before the meeting. And then that can bump it up to a discussion item. So we could consider whatever you felt was missing from those minutes.
Yes, I have had discussions with the city manager and the city clerk prior to, and have requested formally that the meeting minutes actually contain action items, specific action items. And so I'm bringing it up again, and one of the reasons is because I see that there are, the meeting minutes that we have are basically council comments and people making comments. I noticed that my comments are not in the meeting minutes, and I did bring it to the city manager's attention, and he also pointed out that it had to be by Friday. For some reason, I skipped a page or whatever and missed it, and when I went back through to read again over the weekend, I noticed that it was too late to submit. So what I'll do next is to read my comments from last week to make sure that my comments are in the meeting minutes, as they were not in the meeting minutes from last week. I'll make sure that they're in by simply stating them again. But I also want to make a formal request that our meeting minutes actually capture the action items that we request from this board to other committees, or to, that we request be actioned as a council. And I don't see them in the meeting minutes, and I'd like to see them in the meeting minutes. And Councilor, thank you so much for your advice. If you would like to work together to put together those meeting minutes, I'd be happy to do that with you, and then we could submit to the.
That would be a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of literature and best practices on what should and should not be in minutes.
I have submitted to the city attorney copies of the meeting minutes that actually go in our newspaper from our other cities that seem to just capture the meeting minutes. Maybe we could start there, or wherever.
Absolutely.
I just know what I do in my meetings and the action items and how we have to follow those and bring them to the table at the next meeting. Seems pretty basic, but I'll reach out to you directly. and
Okay,
put it together.
sounds good.
I'll help work with Dan too, and you and I can share.
Okay.
Well, and Courtney really does an outstanding job of capturing these minutes. So, any edits or updates that she needs to do, we just need to make sure to keep her in the loop too, so she can capture it properly. So thank you, Courtney, for it's not an easy job that you have. You're one of the best that I've seen in terms of minutes that are taken organizations. So, and thank you, Councilmember Gallagher.
So to come back to those comments that I made last month.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So just to give some context, we talked about, at the end of the meeting, we talked a lot about the discussion around the helpfulness of reviewing our parking developments prior to actually bringing it in front of the council. And the context of that was that, when there are votes for the council to vote on, it would be helpful if we had the opportunity to look through them before actually voting on them. And at that point, and we were talking specifically about rezoning and seeing plans prior to, et cetera. And I think Councilmember Mellon, you brought this up. And my comments were, I made that according to the training that we had as a council body, that it was the responsibility of our city manager to spend equal time with each one of us as a council member. And it was important and presented that way, so that we also talked, Mayor Hodges, you talked a lot about being nonpartisan. And that nonpartisanship is really important, so that all of the members of this community, of this council, are aware of what is being presented and what we are being voted on. So that, Mayor Hodges, you also mentioned you have mentioned many times that, if we have questions, we should be asking those questions prior to coming to this council. And when we have time prior to this meeting and spend time prior to this meeting with the city manager for asking questions or what the agenda items are, then we have the opportunity to create discussion around it and to answer those questions. And if there's multiple questions, then the agenda item can be pushed aside till the next meeting until those questions are answered. It is important and it is fair that we discuss them. And if we don't discuss them prior, then asking for this council not to ask questions during this meeting is not logical. So I want to, again, make it a point, and I think it's an important point, that if we don't take the time prior to the meeting to have full discussions, and I have said that just making a call at 2:00 in the afternoon before a 7:00 meeting is ticking a box. It doesn't warrant a full discussion. And if we're not going to be transparent prior to the meeting, then it is fair and logical to be transparent at this meeting. And those are my comments. Thank you for your time.
City Manager, you.
I'd like to address one
Yes,
comment. So, I do appreciate your comments, Councilmember Gallagher, and, I could speak to this big day, but I know you and I have had several exchanges between each other, asking two in the morning to have conversations, and we have not done so. So to say, otherwise it's only at 2:00 between you and I believe is a little unfair.
I don't mean every time, and if it came
I
across
just-
that
yeah,
way. I know
okay.
you and I had a
Yeah.
meeting last week and we met for breakfast
Right,
and you and
yeah.
I have committed
Okay.
to meeting every other week so that we
Yep.
have communications.
Sounds good.
Yes, and I have reached out to Councilmember Caulfield here and asked that we meet for a one-on-one. I have also expressed that to Mayor Hodges, that I would like to have a one-on-one with her. And I will reach out to each one of these other council members as well, and I will ask for a one-on-one with them because I think it's important. If we are a team, that we actually act like one and we all speak together and have the opportunity, as our trainer Greg had said. Now, it is very important to have one-on-one discussions with each and every one of the council members. Thank you.
So I'm glad that was clarified because I know being in close communication with you, City Manager Sisler, that I do get updates from you on how frequently you're reaching out to each of us and at what cadence. And it can be difficult because agendas go out on Thursday for the Monday meeting, right? And, we need time to read it. You need to. So it's this tight, condensed time frame, right, that we all need to be worried. So, and I know you do reach out regularly. So I'm glad that.
Trying to think back how we did it to Fridays.
Yeah, yes. Well, and Councilmember Gallagher, if there's a better way to communicate with you, that'd be helpful too, because I know a lot of emails do get sent, and it'd be helpful to know if there's a better way to communicate too, so that we can be that team. So
That's something Councilmember Gallagher and I.
One-on-one, and I'd be really happy.
we have met, and I'm happy to do that again. So, all right, any other comments from folks? Okay, I would just like to congratulate the Grosse Pointe Sail Club, right? Mayor Pro Tem Caulfield, I know they reached out with an invitation to their gala this weekend. They're celebrating and saying farewell or celebrating their Commodore, correct? So that's such an important part of our tradition here in Grosse Pointe Park, so congrats to them. I'd also like to extend condolences to the family of Gretchen Belade. She certainly has had such an impact in the community, much like Mr. Bull, much like some of the others we've lost in the last 12 months and the like. So certainly our condolences to them. And then also to the Grosse Pointe Park Foundation. I believe most everybody in the community should have received a letter. It's already been alluded to earlier tonight about the Patterson Park Playscape. After 30 years, it's time to make it ADA compliant, right? And I know some folks, including my neighbor, Bob Jindoffer, and his dad built it together when he was a wee little sprite. And I think some people are feeling some separation anxiety too, right? So, but this is what great change and progress is. So thank you. We probably should have talked about our donor community in our state of the city because they have been important to what we do. So thank you for their leadership on that Playscape, and congrats to them on their new website. And also thank you again for their transformational investments through the EERV and others. So other than that, it sounds like we're ready to move on. Yes, Mr.
Just a
Caulfield?
couple of comments. I apologize, Council comments quickly. As far as our state of the city, would you like those reports sent to you? Or
I know Mr. Lindbergh would, right? That would, I know mine are just handwritten. I mean, yes, the answer would be yes. It'd be great to have an archive of that, right? But how practical that is, I don't know that everybody had theirs in writing. We could assemble them. I don't know, maybe Nick, you could take the lead on this, or Jane, or something, maybe it's more a clerk role to try to capture and.
Or share with the council.
And it'd be great to have it on the website. Now, although I suppose too, we could it's in the meeting as well, or maybe it should be part of the minutes. I think it's a good suggestion.
Okay.
We'll figure that out.
Just a couple of other quick, I apologize. On the one page, we do for all committees by February 1st, just to reiterate, correct?
Correct. And some folks, I understand their committees might not have met by then, and but generally if we could shoot for that, I think it's important.
The only, I guess my last comment was, I know when we established these committees and assigned chairs and liaisons, things early on after we were first appointed, I did throw in a request that after 1 year that we made, I don't know if we do it as a body or if that's between you and the mayor, maybe take a look to see if there are realignments that need to take place or readjustments or new committees You know, my reason for saying this is I don't, just because I'm here for 4 years, do you want me to be the chair for the ordinance for 4 years? I think it's kind of good that we bring in new bodies at times. So I would just ask that maybe we spend some time reevaluating and maybe what committees are actually maybe even.
Sure, yes. Let's do that. In fact, I think we've already had a conversation, Mr. Seisland, about getting a recommendation from staff as to, because of course, you know, as we establish goals and objectives, you need to organize your infrastructure around it, right? So if you've got this set of goals for your city manager and these committees that are way off in some other direction, that doesn't make any sense, right? So city manager, if you could kind of look at, you know, what your goals are and a sense of how committees can be organized around them. So we're all pushing forward in the same direction and you're getting supported and not pulled in other directions, that'd be great. So I think, Mr. Caulfield, that's a really good suggestion, and that could be our starting point, is to hear from our staff what you would think would be most helpful. And you don't need to do that right now, but.
Yeah, and then obviously if there's comments from other council members, and the good thing about this process is we can always evolve. We're always learning how can we improve, or is it working, is it not? You know, there's always a couple different ways. So each community does it different. You know, probably my homework assignment, seeing what else we can do. You know, it's evolving. And then looks like you had a comment.
I agree. It's a good idea. My suggestion might be 2 years. Because it seems like that way, when you first get assigned to a committee, you're working on that committee and you're getting your feet wet. And the second year become real productive. And I think that might be a time to reevaluate after the second year.
Then the election happens too. So
And then the election happens too.
absolutely. And I'm not actually suggesting like term limits on it. It's just if there are, hey, I have now an interest in, you know, because we've done so much on infrastructure, maybe Max now is like, hey, this is on autopilot, we can just continue to do this, but now I have an interest in Parks and Rec. Or
No, Max has to stay on infrastructure.
I'm just using it as an example. But no, I mean, if there's some
Make that
shortfalls
motion
or
now, right,
even
Brian?
adding people to committees, you know, but I agree, I don't want to change them necessarily, I just think.
I think it's smart to be evaluated.
But to that note, I mean, like the governing factor needs to be efficiency, right? Like early on, I don't know about set timeframes, but early on, we consolidated some committees into others because we thought it would make it streamlined. But again, I'm not married to anything. If there's a better way to do it, if there's feedback within committees, again, I'm all ears. But yeah, I mean, we just want this thing moving smoothly. So.
Thank
you. Reevaluate.
Get on time and meeting timelines and that as well, so. All right, yes, Mr.
I
Brenner.
was gonna say, that said, I move that Max remain chair of infrastructure so long as he serves on this council.
Just one.
Sorry, man.
All right, council, with that, we can close that portion of the agenda and move into our public comment portion of the agenda on non-agenda items. So, sir, if you wanted to speak, now would be your moment. If you decided you don't want to, don't feel any pressure. Yes, you. And again, you have 3 minutes. Well, you're more than welcome to come up to the podium here. We'd love to hear your name and what street you live on and anything that you might have to share with this council. And we will do our best to answer your
Happy New
questions.
Year to the council.
Likewise.
Happy New Year. My girlfriend resides off of Trombley, around 698 address. And since September, she's got 3 dogs now, all golden retrievers. And to alleviate her helping her senior parents, I took on the task of walking the dogs. So my New Year's resolution of losing some weight is occurred, lost about 40 pounds because I'm walking the dogs 3 times a day. But to not take up your time, your little Trombley dead-end park there has a few minor housekeeping issues that I would think you need to address. You've got 2 benches down there. One that's a typical, very heavy, standard 4-person bench. They can't move it. I'm talking about any of these guests and people in the area. It's under the tree. It's dedicated to Herman Wang and his passing. But then you have an ornate 2-person one that they do move. It's constantly moved around the park, and they're smoking and drinking on the sides. So the bench is encouraging bad habits from some of the younger people that are using it. Benches all over. for whatever reason. And as you know, the weather's been terrific as of late, including around Thanksgiving. I had a minor encounter with one resident who walked down Trombley, taking the dog. I was taking one of her dogs, and we left the area because he was there, and I don't want the dogs to have any contact with strangers per se. It's a new dog, just what have you. And I seen his coat on one of the benches, the ornate bench. I said to the dog, "Got to adjust. Where'd the guy go?" Didn't see him, had no idea. And the next thing I knew, he pops up from the water. He used the ornate, climb over the fence, take a swim, or commit suicide. I don't know. I had to discuss this with my girlfriend. She said, "We could have been committing suicide." Well, I don't know. It was a very strange encounter. This was right around Thanksgiving when we had all this warm time. So I would suggest, this is just a suggestion, that ornate bench, because that's what he used to climb onto the rocks or near the fence, get over this thing. You probably want to post a sign, "No swimming." Because that was kind of unusual. I didn't know if I should call 911. If I had known he had actually climbed over the fence. And that's just that encounter. You also have, it's fenced in, 3 houses on the west side and 1 big house on the east side. Okay, there's like a 20-foot wood fence starting out in the furthest yard closest to the water. Then there's a middle house that has a 7-foot fence. And then the last house headed towards Windmill Point, maybe a 5-foot fence. But your 7-foot fence, he has an access gate that he can leave from his backyard and take his animals into the park or his family into the park, but that gate is broken. It takes 2 hinges to hold the door in place. Some of them come with 3 due to the weight. He has 1. And I've seen this gate and the hinge is up high. I've seen this gate tipped up like a tunnel. And he has 2 aggressive dogs that are at least 50 pounds in his yard. So these people who are bringing their kids with strollers and their little, smaller dogs, they're gonna have an issue.
So thank you so much, sir, for bringing this. What's your name, by the way? I don't know.
My name is Ernie Cottingham.
Nice to meet you, Ernie. Thank you for coming. The time limit has been expended, but I certainly want to make sure you're connected properly. City Manager Seisler, maybe the 2 of you can connect, or at least you
Yeah.
give them your contact information.
We're talking the very end of Trombley where it goes to Lake Forest, right, where it goes to the water there, right? Okay, yeah, all right. And, if you don't mind, call my office tomorrow or code enforcement, particularly want to take a look at this.
Okay, that's on the fence. I know my time is allotted. I'm sorry.
Well, and I
Stood up.
did see the chief nodding. I mean, because it's a health and safety issue, just to make it clear, call 911 anytime you see anything like that. So the answer to that would be yes, and just making sure the community knows that when in doubt, if there's any health and safety issue like that, please
Okay,
dial 911.
one other quick issue.
I'm
Is there
sorry,
a parking?
you're gonna get me in trouble.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll hang around and we'll talk afterward, okay?
Okay.
If you've been to any meetings before, I'm kind of about the time, and if I treat you any differently, despite, I'm gonna get in trouble. So thank you for your understanding. I appreciate it. Okay, I think we're up for adjournment. Oh, yeah, any other public comment? Excuse me, forgive me. No? Well, thanks for coming. Okay, it's 9:11. Is there a motion? Did I hear one? Okay, Rowland and Gallagher at 9:11. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Brennan.
Yes.
Gallagher. Yes. Caulfield.
Yes.
Weiner.
Yes.
Bella. McMillan.
Yes.
And Mayor Hodges.
Yes, motion carries. We're adjourned at 9:11. Thank you, everybody.
Let's see, next.
The whole
Come on up,
man.
Ernie.
I want to comment on the color glasses.
So your next comment was gonna be about, it was another part.
I mean, I've never seen glasses that green like that. That's pretty- reminds me of my mom.
Just maybe submit,
February 12th or 13th. You know, you come to the building department, you know, you come to City Hall, talk to the building department for code enforcement.